And to ultimately get what you want, sometimes you got to take things that aren't what you want. Like a Morte Di Fame could be somebody who does anything for money, right? They'll do anything for money, and it has this negative connotation. But the last 15 years, I have done everything for comedy. And maybe it's paying off. Maybe saying yes to everything just to get a little something in the end is really worth it. Cawfee Talk. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Cawfee Talk with Cannistraci. I hope you're having a great Monday or a great start to your day. I don't know when you're listening to this. I know we release them every Monday. When you guys listen to them is totally up to you. But I wanted to talk today because I went to the movies. Who does that anymore? I went to the movies. I had a very good reason to. Kathrine Narducci is co-starring in the movie The Alto Knights. So I went opening night. Of course, to support her. And I'm not just saying this. You could say it's a jaded perspective. If you've read the reviews, she really steals every scene. So congratulations to Kitty. So I know what you guys are thinking. Oh no, another mob movie. But it talked about Frank Costello and Vito Genovese and their relationship. And yes, of course, it involved organized crime. However, there's like a lot of historical facts to it. Which I thought was, I love history. I love learning about history. I was never really good at history in school. Used to tune out probably because of the teachers. But now I find as I get older, I love even if I watch, I sound like I'm going to be so old, but if I will watch TV, I will tune into the History Channel. I'll really get into things that happened in the past. And for that aspect, it was cool. However, it also had, and what I thought was really interesting was Vito Genovese had a very different temperament than Frank Costello. Frank Costello was a businessman. I love that they portrayed him, and from what history will tell you is that he was married to the same woman for, 38 years at the time that the movie started, and he was loyal, and he went home at night, and he just took regular taxi cabs, and he wasn't the typical, textbook definition of a mobster, whereas Vito Genovese was more of a street guy and had more of that aura of what you think a traditional mobster would look like. Anyway, they were two young boys that grew up together that came here from Italy, lived in New York. And what I found fascinating, and it's so crazy because I talk to you guys all the time about these words, Morte Di Fame, stuna, rugaz, putana, all those words that I first started doing years ago on social media. I heard them in the movie, and I have to be honest, I finally got it. And I guess the same rings true for when you watch The Sopranos. I know some of those words are on there, but I was so excited that they were using these words. And every time they said a new word, I would turn to Mike and be like, oh my God, they said Morte Di Fame. Oh my God, they said stunad. Oh my God, because I guess just like you guys, it's nostalgic. Or it also kind of validated me, because here's this Vito Genovese who came from Italy and was a New York guy, but originally from Italy, and American, Italian-American, but Italian first, born there. And it made me happy that he was using those words, because the battle usually is that real Italians don't use those words. And I know that he's a gangster and people don't want to be affiliated with that. Nonetheless, it made me start to think about the words. And in particular, the one word that I said, which was a Morte Di Fame. And basically how I used to always relate to that word, and when I did the word online, it was like somebody who was starving to death. Like if I went to my mother's and I was eating really fast the food that she cooked, she'd be like, oh my God, you're eating like Morte Di Fame. Like you're eating like you were going to starve to death, is how I always translated it. And when I posted it online, a lot of people said it's also somebody who would do anything for money. And it really got me thinking, in particular because I've been doing a lot of soul searching these last few months as I started the tour, and I started saying no to certain gigs that I didn't think were worth my time. And I realized that I got to where I got, not because I was willing to do anything for money, but because I was willing to do anything for time on stage. And so for the first decade of my comedy career. And I say career, and I use that word lightly because anybody who's in the entertainment industry will tell you you are investing fully in yourself. You're losing money that first 10 years. I always said this, I wish there was a school I could have went to that said, okay, now you're a comedian. Same way with actors. Okay, you did this 4-year degree. Now you can go get a job at Warner Brothers as an actor. The same way a lawyer would do it, or a medical student, or an accountant, or anybody who goes to a university. And that's just not the industry that I chose. And so for a while, I was kind of like a Morte Di Fame, where I would take any job. I would say yes to anything. Pennsylvania on a Friday, driving home. I used to work all day, come home, shower, nap, and then jump in the car because it would probably take me 3.5 hours on a Friday to cross the George Washington Bridge just to do 15 minutes of comedy for $150. And that's when it was like good money, because I've done comedy for a lot less. And I was recently talking to my fellow comics, and we all find ourselves in different situations, right? We're all at different levels in our career, even if we all started around the same time. And some of my comedian friends are doing it a lot longer and a lot more successful than me. And other people are the people I started with who may not be doing as well as I am right now. And I realized the word Morte Di Fame has such a negative connotation. But really, if I didn't do everything and anything just to get time, just to get better, just to make a few extra dollars, that money, that stage time, those performances all helped the bigger picture. I think we're at this point where people just want things quicker, or people think, and I get it, people think they're too good for certain things. I just had a conversation with my friend, and she was like, I don't feel valued. And that's a terrible feeling, right? All we all want is to feel appreciated. If I do something in my house, everybody wants that feeling that they feel respected for what they've done. But I realized that means something different to everybody. Some people are not willing to do anything for money, or do anything for time, or do anything for more work, I should say. And she was saying she didn't feel valued because of a dollar amount she was receiving for something. And let me tell you guys something. I have been underpaid in this industry to this day. However, there are other forms of payment that I have to remind myself that I am getting, whether it's exposure, whether it's opportunity to be seen by somebody else, whether it's to just get better, to appear in front of a different audience, not such an easy audience, not just the East Coasters that may understand me right off the bat. Every opportunity, every Morte Di Fame aspect of this business where I am saying yes because I just want it, has helped me grow. And yes, there are things now that I am saying no to because I'm like, this isn't worth my time. But I just thought it was funny. I think Vito Genovese, or there's a reference to him, like, yeah, he's a real Morte Di Fame. Like he'll take anything for money, even if it doesn't respect the family or whatever the connotation was. But then I realized sometimes you have to be starving for success. Because let me tell you something. It sounds so cliche, but if it was easy, like Chaz says this all the time, if it was easy, everybody would do it. Yeah. So I'll never forget, I did a podcast called Ask a Matchmaker. You should check it out. And I did this thing where I had this year of yes, where I said yes to every guy that asked me out, regardless of the situation. I said, even if it was just a coffee or a talk, or I was going to be open to hearing to saying yes, because I didn't know where the opportunity could be. I even talked about how I didn't even like Mike on the first time I met him. I was like, oh no, I don't think I want to go out with this guy. Nothing's going to come of this, right? And I think that's a mentality. And sometimes you got to say yes to everything if it's going in the direction that you think could lead ultimately to your dream. I have this with a girlfriend of mine. She will remain nameless, but I got really annoyed with her the other day because we were together and she was on a dating app and she was swiping left, which means she was not liking people. And I was like, what's wrong with that guy? What's wrong with that guy? And she was like, oh, he lives here. That's Jersey. And I'm like, you or the perception I have of you is you're dying to get married. You're dying to have children. You're like a real Morte Di Fame to settle down. Yet here you are saying no to a possible opportunity. Okay, so that person may live there right now. It's not 3-hour plane ride away. It's a drive. You can create a life with somebody anywhere. I'm sitting in my room with Venetia, who had to move to just a different part of the city. And that was something 2 years ago she may have never done. But now she's done because she's found her person and she's creating a different life, and people evolve and opportunities happen. And to ultimately get what you want, sometimes you got to take things that aren't what you want. And I don't say that to say be with somebody who doesn't value you or take a job that makes you feel less than. But you got to remember there's a constant investment in yourself that you need to make, okay, in order to get to the next level. There is so much competition out there these days. I'm not getting any younger. Certainly not feeling it. And, it just kind of brought me back. It really made me think about that word. I mean, there were so many fun words in it. And what I love so much, I'll just say this about it. When I was listening to the movie, watching the movie and listening to the words, I loved hearing ugats in the way I use it, which means nothing, and we know what putana means. And it just was like one of those things that was like a lesson to myself when he said like he'll do anything for money. And I thought, you know what? For the last 15 years, I've done anything for comedy. And that's why I'm on this podcast this morning. That's why I brought this topic to you guys. I don't know if there is something out there that you want and you just feel like it's not happening. And I'm not saying you maybe haven't tried everything, but I think we always have to reflect and say, what could I say yes to? What more could I do? And I know we're all tired, but it's kind of like I learned this. My dad is an alcoholic, sober now, 18 years, but I did learn when I went to the open meetings with him, they used to say something like, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And I found myself this year being like, okay, I'm doing this, this, and this, and I keep doing this, this, and this, and I don't feel like I'm getting a different result. Well, maybe I have to be a little more hungry for it. Maybe I have to see that I'm starving and that I have to do anything, right, to get to the next level. So that is my reflection of the week for Cawfee Talk. It came from just a word I heard in a movie, and one that you guys literally have asked me to say online. I will say this to your credit. When people would text me words, they'd be like, say this word, say that word. I'm like, why are you telling me to say it? You're saying it yourself right now. You're writing it. I do understand that hearing it. When I saw that movie, I did understand that hearing somebody else say it does have a nostalgia factor to it. So on that note, guys, I hope you have a beautiful week. I hope that none of you are starving for something that you haven't received. But if you are, take a little time to listen to this episode or share it with someone who you think could use it. Sharing is caring. That's what the Care Bears taught me in the 80s. All right, guys. Happy Cawfee Talk Day.
Cawfee Talk.